The Underground Way. I am not sure if this is the right place to post this. I'm just trying to seek out some insight from anyone who may have some. Also, I apologize for the wall of text. It turned into many more words than I was intending, but details might make it easier to provide insight. Background. My wife and I have been together for 11 years, married for the last 4 of those. We have 2 young children together, aged 1 and 3. She is the only woman I have ever had slept with, and we've been together the majority of our adult lives. For the last several years, we've both been progressively less and less happy with our relationship. Aside from the period where we were trying to conceive our kids, we have barely had slept together in several years, and in the last year, only twice, and both times she wasn't into it, which ruined the experience for both of us. She has felt like I was emotionally absent and has been progressively denying me all forms of physical affection, not just bonding, all of it. I, being hurt and rejected by this, have been less and less inclined to spend the time and energy being present for her emotionally, which sort of created a vicious cycle where we had less contact, so I wanted less quality time, so she wanted less intimacy, so I had less of a desire to spend time with her, and so on. A few weeks ago, she came to me and said she wanted to be separated because she felt that she had been putting so much energy in and that I was simply not able to be the man she needed to be happy. She said that she felt we both needed to be separate to work on our own individual issues, and that maybe in the future if we could each fix ourselves, we might be able to get back together as 2 new people. Then she told me that she needed the option to, if she met someone in the future, not feel bad about pursuing a relationship with them, and she told me that she could have slept with another man and not feel bad about it, if there was just bonding and no love, but if she felt like she was falling in love with him that she'd know we needed to divorce for good. She also, in a bout of anger during one of the fights that this precipitated, told me that she would not even care if I had slept with another woman, but it would hurt her deeply if I were to be romantic, buy flowers, be emotionally involved with another woman. Due to the kids and mortgage, money, we must stay in the same house for at least the next few years regardless of what happened, so I've moved into a new bedroom in the basement. Before that day, I would have never worried she would cheat, even when we had gone a year without any bonding at all. But since she told me that, it was all I could think of. I know she has a few male friends and she insists they are nothing more, but it is hard for me to even imagine her talking to them now without feeling like they are cheating or planning to cheat. In my shock and panic after she decided we needed to separate, I peeked at her Facebook messages a few times and saw that she was talking to some dude who I had never met, sending him little heart emotes and being generally very loving, and they were deleting their conversations regularly. I confronted her about it, and she got mad that I was snooping. To be honest, I felt bad about it too. It's fair to be mad about that. And she insisted that there was nothing going on but that he had been trying to get with her and she shut him down. And even though I believed her, she's a very honest person by nature, I still have a hard time getting over what I had seen. He lives in a different city and there is no way they could have gotten together to actually do anything. So I know there's no chance they actually had slept together or anything, but the idea that she was meeting her emotional needs from another man really ate at me. Fast forward a few more weeks as I started to adjust to the separation and come out of my crazed mental crisis that it brought on. The more I considered the situation, the more I began to accept that our marriage had been unhappy for a long time for both of us. The fact that she had been so adamant about being able to potentially see other people in the future weighed on me constantly, even though I am mostly certain she hasn't actually been looking for someone. It really chewed me up. One night, after she and I had had yet another fight about it all, I decided in my anger to put myself on a dating site to see if there was anyone out there who might like me how I am. After so long of my wife insisting that she had done everything right and that I was 100% the root cause of all our marital problems, and after so long being denied affection, I had felt like I was a completely unlovable, unattractive person and my very masculinity had been stripped away. I just wanted to feel like a man again, and I never ever would have considered it if my wife had not insisted that she wanted to have the option to do so. She insisted, though, that she was not looking for it, but rather she wanted to be able to say yes if someone asked her out in the future and made her feel good about herself again. So, after a while, I met someone on there. We have never gotten together in person, just talked online, on the phone, and via text, but we have an amazing amount in common in ways my wife and I never did, and it's been a very long time since I felt this excited to get to know someone. I would be lying if I said I didn't also want to sleep with her, especially considering how long it's been since my wife was willing to be passionate with me. But I'm old-fashioned in that I feel like you should know someone well before you jump into bed with them. I very badly want to meet her and see what happens, because I do not remember how long it's been since I felt like this. I figured since my wife had initiated the separation, and since she was the one whose idea it was, and since she insisted that she needed the option to be with other people, that it might be okay. So, I made a date with her, but when I told my wife that I was going to be going out, to make sure she could be home to watch the kids, she lost her mind and we had the worst fight we have ever had. Even though I tried to be evasive, I did not want to lie to her, but I didn't want to just flat out tell her that I was going to date another woman. She saw right through me, and when asked about how we met, I told her I had put myself on a dating site. She called me all kinds of terrible things, said she hated me, said I broke her already broken heart again, called me disgusting, and acted like all I wanted was to find some girl to have fun with. That is not it at all. I mean, I have physical needs for sure, and they haven't been attended by my wife in a long time, but there was a lot more missing from our marriage than just bonding. I just feel like honesty is important, and I did not want to be sneaky. My wife was incredibly hurt that I had been actively seeking out companionship in that way. I canceled the date and removed myself from the site to ease my wife's mind, but I am still secretly in contact with the new woman, and I'd still really like to meet her and see what happens. So, I am torn. Part of me does not want to throw away the last 11 years and sacrifice the wholeness of our family, because I know that if I do go date this woman that there will never be a chance of reconciliation with my wife. If that happens, we will divorce for sure and she'll take our kids, and I'll only get to see them every other weekend or some such. It will devastate us both financially for years. It will be as though the last 11 years have been a complete waste. Part of me, though, realizes that we have been unhappy for years, and sometimes I feel that maybe the reason it wasn't working with my wife is because we really weren't right for each other, but we had so much time and energy invested that we didn't want to quit despite it. Maybe if it were right, it wouldn't have been so hard to build each other up. I never would have thought that before she decided to separate. But maybe I want a divorce. Maybe we are just not right and no amount of working on ourselves is going to get us to a place where we can be good together. I do not know if I can really forgive her wanting to separate or her desire to see other men, nor do I know if she can ever forgive me for wanting and actively seeking to see what it's like with someone else. I suspect that if it were not for the kids, we'd already have gone our separate ways, but for their sake I feel like I'm obligated to stay. But how far does that obligation go? How long should we both endure a relationship that drains us rather than building us up? How good is it for the kids to stay together for their sake, but be miserable and without love? What if I really am the problem, though? What if it is not that we don't love each other, but that I'm as broken as she says and I'm incapable of real love? In this situation, with all this information, is it really cheating if I pursue a relationship with the new woman? I am not expecting to find the love of my life or anything. I tried that, and she changed her mind. I just want to feel alive and like a man again, and maybe it is just the infatuation of meeting someone who gets my engine going. But I don't remember the last time I felt like I do when I'm talking to this new woman. I do not want to sneak around. I couldn't do it behind my wife's back, so to speak, but I know that if I do it openly, then I lose my children and any chance of reconciliation. I'm just not really sure if reconciliation is even what I want. As far as counseling, we have made an appointment with a counselor together as well as separately. I am just not sure what we might get from it. The more I think about it, the more I wonder if it is even something I want to save. I do not want to just quit, but if the love really isn't there, then might it not be better to split before the kids are old enough to understand? I am not just saying that because I want to date the other woman either. I don't want to work at it for months or years to recover the trust and such, only to realize that it's still not working and split anyhow, and by then the kids would be old enough to get hurt by it as well. We've both been so angry, so bitter, and so emotionally and physically deprived for so long that I do not know if we could ever find a way back from the resentment. She is basically going to couples counseling against her will, her words, because she feels that it is pointless to try to fix a relationship made from two broken people. I suspect that her stubborn preconceived notions will prevent it from being helpful for us, but I am still willing to give it a shot. I recognize that it is a gamble either way, and on some level, I think I also realize that going with the new woman is the easy way out, so to speak, but it's hard to just give it up when it's the best feelings I've had in, I don't even know how long, but it's been years. Trying to work it out with my wife is guaranteed to be more pain and suffering for both of us, and that is going to last a while no matter what, and it still might not end in us getting back together. I do not want to waste the last 11 years, but I don't want to squander any more time either. I do not know if I could be better off with the new woman, there's no way to know. It might not be anything. We might meet and have no chemistry, or we might just not work out at all, and that is okay. There's nothing really invested anyhow, but as time passes, I keep thinking that there must be someone better for me than my wife. If her and I were really in love the way we should have been, it should have been easy to keep it from getting to this point. On reflection, my wife and I originally got together because we were both so broken and so in need of love that we were willing to overlook all the red flags just to have someone be willing to love us. We had nothing in common, really, besides a desperate desire to be loved and accepted. Then after a few years, we moved in together, because we might as well. Then after a few years, I proposed to her. But I realized looking back that I did not do it from some I need to be with her forever place, but rather because she wanted it, and that's what people do when they have been together as long as we had. Even, do not get me wrong, I love my kids more than I thought was even possible, but I only agreed to have them because that's what she wanted, and because I knew it would break our physical drought for a while. I cannot help but feel like I got in it for the wrong reasons, then just stuck with it because I was scared to be alone and afraid that nobody could ever love me besides her. Maybe that is why the idea of this new woman is so incredibly addictive to me. It's proof that maybe I was wrong, and maybe I am a more attractive and lovable man than I had convinced myself I was. Maybe it is actually possible for someone besides my wife to desire me. She has not actually started seeing anyone, or so she says, and I believe her, but it still eats at me how much time she spends talking to her male friends. She said that she is not in a position to be in a relationship with anyone right now, myself included. She said that she wanted the option, in the future, if she met someone who made her feel good, that she could go out with them and not feel like she is doing something wrong because she's obligated to me. She says she is mad at me because while she was saying maybe one day I'd like to, and I said, I'd like to try now. When I pointed out that it was her idea and that I would have never looked elsewhere had she not suggested it, she got very defensive and said that she was very clear that she was not looking for a new man, but that she wanted to know that if sometime in the future she met one and wanted to pursue a relationship, that she would be able to because she wouldn't be bound to me. She was upset that I was actively looking to replace her, while she was just hoping that someday her Prince Charming would show up and save her from her miserable life. That Prince Charming bit is my own words, not hers, but that is the impression she gave me. As far as the basement move, it's just better this way. She's still feeding our son whose room is upstairs, and truthfully, I kind of like my new room in the basement. Today, without my knowledge, my wife called up the couple's counselor and made an urgent request to move our appointment to a sooner date. It was originally slated for a month from now, but she said that she felt like if we had to wait that long that there would not be anything left to save. I find myself wondering if this signifies a change of heart on her side. I had previously felt like she was just going to go through the motions to wash her hands and say, "See, I tried, it failed because of you." I am starting to feel like maybe her original plan, the reason she said she'd be willing to see other people, was to try to shake me into fixing myself for her, since she has always insisted that my problems and deficiencies are the root cause of all of our marriage trouble. She knew, or thought she knew, that I would sit at home pining for her and waiting for her to sort herself out, do what she needed to do, and come back to me. She figured I would sit here sad and patient. But when she realized that I was willing and able to go out and find someone new, it completely broke her plan. On one hand, I feel like I owe it to her and to the kids to give it another chance. Despite how miserable we've both been for the last few years, if we can find a way to meet in the middle on our problems, maybe we can build something new and stronger than ever. Maybe that's just a dreamer's hope though. I am not sure how we can ever trust each other again after this. I mean, in the biblical sense, neither one of us has cheated, but on an emotional, mental level we have. I know that if I were in a situation where I could have slept with the new woman, I would not be able to resist. Hell, I would not want to resist. I also suspect that if my wife were in a similar situation with a guy that gets her juices flowing, so to speak, that she would do it too. But maybe, just maybe, we could find a middle ground that we can come back together in. We were talking a few weeks ago, my wife and me. She made a fantastic analogy. Living in a non-loving marriage is like desperately wanting a glass of milk, but there is none in the fridge and you aren't allowed to go out and get more. At first, you just sit around wishing you had milk. Then, after a while, you start to panic and look for milk in places that do not make sense, like the cupboards and under the bed and such. But after a while, you start to convince yourself that maybe you didn't want milk after all. Maybe you don't even like milk. Water's fine, no need for milk at all. Then, one day, the separation, you realize that you can just open the front door, and the whole damn world is full of milk. Suddenly it all comes back to you, you leave the haze and scream at the top of your lungs, "I love milk. I forgot how much I love milk." And you want to drink it and cook with it and use it for the whole manner of wonderful things that milk makes better. So, my dilemma now is, do I want to go out and have the nice cold glass of milk that I have been denied for so long? Or would I rather put the hard work in, clear some space in the fridge at home, and maybe one day we can go out and hit up the grocery store together? I probably am jumping in too quickly, I probably look too soon. At the same time, I really was not expecting to find anyone so quickly either, certainly not someone like this new woman. I have been extremely surprised. We have so much in common that it blows my mind. I have not felt like this in a very, very long time, and I don't want to waste what could be a great chance to get to know someone who's on the same page as me. It is incredibly hard to decide, because on the one hand I have 11 years of history and 2 children with my wife, even though the last few have been miserable. On the other hand, the new woman and I have no history at all and might not even amount to anything. But it's been so many years since I felt this excited and infused with raw physical energy. I have been denying my own appetite for so long, pretending I did not like milk, so to speak, since my wife wouldn't sleep with me. Related to filing for divorce, we are in Canada, so the law dictates a 1-year separation before we are allowed to file for divorce unless there's adultery or abuse. As I mentioned above, no matter what, we are sort of obligated to stay in the same house for at least 3 years due to mortgage penalties and such. I mean, we could just take the loss, but then we would both be in huge debt for years, and in the end the kids are the ones that would suffer since both mom and dad would be penniless for years. Well, we have had a counseling session since the last time I posted. largely it just ended up as both of us venting. But sometimes that's nice to do with a referee to keep you from interrupting each other or getting too angry to have a good discussion. Over the next couple days, we had a few decent conversations about where we're at and where we're going, and we've come to a much more clearly defined state, I think. We've agreed that we can each date others if we want, and that we understand that the other person isn't doing it to hurt us. Seeing as we were both unhappy in our marriage for different reasons, we're free to see if those things could maybe be better with someone else. I suspect it'll hurt us at first, but the sense sort of being like the old proverb about setting free the things you love. If they come back, they're yours forever, and if they don't, they never were. Kind of a weird state to be, but we really both were unhappy in the marriage before. The tragedy is that if we had gotten on the same page, we could have made each other happy, but there's been so much bad for so long that maybe we do both just need a break to see if we can find that page, so to speak. The door on reconciliation isn't closed, but we're moving towards the idea that if it happens, it's not going to be soon. Since we're going to be living together for the long term due to the kids and mortgage and such, if someday in the future we fall back in love, then so be it. We'll keep attending counseling for the time being to work on general relationship skills and adjusting to being separate, and we'll each be attending our own counseling to try to sort out the problems that got us here in the first place. Who knows, maybe in time we will fall back in love. So, I've asked the new woman to go out sometime. I'm a bit hesitant still because I don't want to hurt my wife, despite our differences. We've been together 11 years, she's the mother of my kids, and I care about how she feels, but we've agreed to be as respectful and discreet as we can to minimize that sort of thing. I know it will still hurt though, for both of us, but I know, and my wife knows, that we're not doing it for that purpose. Also, nobody is allowed to bring anyone home, obviously. On some level I think we both want it to work in the long term, but the rift is wide and we both have our own stuff to deal with. There's more to it, as there always is, than can be explained in a few disconnected paragraphs. If you love something, set it free. Old saying, but we're giving it a try to see if maybe distance really can make the heart grow fonder. I'm far from free of responsibility. If I painted it that way, then it was just my words being colored by pain. I've been selfishly denying her the emotional things she needed while blaming her for it, and sometimes I wonder if it was because on some level, I really just wasn't feeling it. By the same token though, she was denying me my needs too, and I wonder if it was totally because of my actions, as she claims, or if she really didn't care enough either. It was a long cycle of denial and bitterness, each feeding the other. We've both been failing to meet in the middle for a long time. It's just that she was the one who finally decided that she wanted it to stop. Though she claims she did, I can't be sure either of us really gave it our best shot. I can't help but think that maybe that in itself is telling. If it was right, if it could have been right, we'd have both been more motivated to do it up in the first place. I'm honestly not sure how it will work out. There are a few parts of me that think it could really be positive in the long run, helping us both to find what might have been lacking, even if it means we end up staying apart, or to maybe see that what we had is really what we wanted all along anyhow. There's a certain amount of selfishness on both sides here, I think, in the sense that we've both been starved of our respective needs for so long that we aren't sure if A, the other person can give us what we need, and B, we even want them to anymore. I can't truly speak to my wife's motivation, aside from what she has said to me, but I know as well that the temptation is extremely strong in me to see if a satisfying bedroom life can actually be something I can find. I'm 35 years old and my wife is the only woman I've ever had slept with, and I've always felt like our drives didn't match up. I wanted it way more than her. Whenever we did it, I always showed up and gave it 110% effort, going down on her, putting tremendous effort into making it as good for her as possible, but I never felt that she returned even a fraction of that effort. I always felt like it was just lacking something. Selfishness, perhaps a bit petty, but I feel like even if we somehow end up together after a period of separation, this could be my last chance to ever see what it could be like with someone else. I know though, that it will hurt on both sides to know it's happening. I know it'll be a barb in my heart when she dates other men, and I suspect she'll be hurt when I date other women. Whether that pain will lead to introspection and realization of our true needs is the real question. I wonder if the cow is all right anymore, to run with that analogy even further. Perhaps it's gone dry, and maybe some time and space and a bit of time in the pasture could give it time to refill. I don't know, and I suspect there's no way to know. About seeing others, I feel like I should keep doing it. I feel like this is important too, but since she stalwartly refused to relinquish the right to do so, I suspect that it won't happen like that. Just the same, I don't want it to seem like I'm just doing it out of spite, or out of some vengeful place in my heart. While my reasons are most certainly selfish, they aren't motivated by anger or revenge. It's not like I'm saying, fine, you want to see other people, then I will too. At first, maybe I did join the dating site for reasons like that, but it's no longer like that in my mind. At least at present, the kids aren't actually suffering at all for it. They are both too young to understand even a fraction of the issues at hand, and my wife and I have agreed to make sure that they come first regardless of where we're at or what we're doing, including never wasting time that could be spent with the kids on a date divided by etc. With regards to the marital vows, to some extent I agree, it's weird at best. But there's a lot of precedent for separated spouses remaining living together but seeing other people. Aside from a piece of paper, there's really nothing to stop two married people from agreeing to live like this. And as to the character of someone who would enter into that relationship, it's hard to say really. If the spouses in question agree that it's something that they are allowing, and if the person entering into that is aware of the situation and the living arrangements and such, then I don't see it as necessarily a negative thing in terms of their character. It's not the same thing as knowingly helping a married person cheat. It's sort of a weird gray area since yes, on paper we are still married, but we've agreed to absolve each other of our vows for purposes of this. Neither my wife nor I are religious, so there's no sense of being judged by a higher power or anything of that sort. An update, things have gotten worse and better at the same time. I had mentioned before that there was a dude from out of town that my wife has been talking to online since at least when we separated, and likely before. She insisted up and down that they were just friends, and that I was being paranoid, but my instinct was screaming at me that it was more. She swore that although she wanted to see other people that he was not one of them and would never be. Yesterday we had to come to my hometown for a funeral, the city that the other dude lives in. I was going to be staying here for the weekend and she said she was going to go shopping and then drive home. Later that evening, I went out for dinner with one of my buddies, and through the craziest twist of fate, we look up and there's my wife walking in with that guy. I have never in my life felt so betrayed. Not because she was on a date, I could have handled it better if it was some random dude I have been planning to date too, after all. It hurt because she lied to my face, and it was the one person she had so adamantly insisted was only a friend, even though I had read her messages to him and I felt otherwise. I knew it, but I let her convince me otherwise. I wanted so badly to believe that I ignored my heart, and now I feel like I can never trust her again. It calls into question everything over the last years. On one hand, it's the most painful thing I have ever felt. On the other hand, I feel like it frees me to move on with my life and other relationships without needing to be concerned about how it makes her feel. I don't think there is anything else she can do that will cut me deeper than the moment yesterday when I looked up and made eye contact with the two of them. Just tossing an update, I'm not sure if this is a legit use of the forum. I'm sort of half-ass using this as a journal of my situation now. I have officially made a date with the new woman, in light of the newfound proof that my wife had likely been sneaking around at least as long as I thought she had. In 2 nights, I'll be going out with her, and I'm seriously nervous about it. For all the normal reasons, I haven't been on a date in over a decade, plus the normal first date jitters. But I'm also supremely nervous about the moment where I come out of the shower all dressed up and ready to roll, and I have to walk past my wife on the way out with both of us knowing exactly what's happening. It's weird, because after last week's events I shouldn't even care how she feels about it, but I can't shake the feeling that it's going to be an extremely tense moment. I'm not sure if she'll want to fight, or if she'll cold shoulder it. If she tries to fight, I know I have to do my best to simply not engage. I will not have her ruin the night for me in advance. A cold shoulder is likely easier to deal with, but no matter what we'll both be hurting a bit, I think. I wish that I could just be bitter and spiteful, so I could just feel like she deserves it. She did it first, screw her, but I'm simply not wired like that. Maybe that's a weakness in me, that I care too much about the feelings of someone who doesn't feel the same way. Still, I'd rather care too much than not at all. Hollowness is a terrible thing. Comments. Your wife already set up the game to cheat by stating she wants to have no strings attached fun times during your separation, but as strings suddenly appear she then wants a divorce. She's being insanely selfish. She basically is saying, hey, I'm too scared to be alone, so I'm going to keep you on the side, in your basement room. Why isn't she in the basement? Until I find a substantial partner I can leave you for. You've both checked out, but you're both too scared for big change. Big change is the only thing that will make you happy and protect your kids from the strain between you and your wife. Big change includes selling the house and moving apart from one another. To be happy you have to take risks. Get out of the basement, get out from under each other. Maybe in the future you can get back together. OP responds, believe me, I wish we could do that. I feel like that's the only way to find lasting peace between us. The problem right now is our mortgage is too new, and if we sell the house, we have to pay a huge penalty, so we'd lose a load of money. Our last house we did a lot of work on, made profit on, and were able to turn that into a nice down payment on this one. But all of that investment plus more would simply evaporate if we sold. I don't mind the basement apartment though, in all honesty, other than when I'm on night shift and I have to sleep down there while the kids play in the next room. What's really messed up is that even after all of this, I can't totally rule out the idea of maybe someday getting back together. Right now, I'm so mad at her, and I don't know how I can ever trust her again. But I also can't completely exclude the idea that maybe in a few years, after we've both had some time apart, we might think, wow, we really had a good thing back there that we threw away, let's give it another shot. It's really screwed up, like Stockholm Syndrome or something. Maybe it's just a resistance to the idea of letting go, or maybe deep down there's still something there but it's so covered in anger and bitterness that it can't shine yet. We didn't talk at that moment. She saw me sitting in the restaurant and they decided to eat elsewhere. I texted her something along the lines of "have a nice night," and then when she was finally heading home near midnight, she called me. She still claimed that they are just friends and that she has no desire to have a relationship with him. She even went so far as to say that it was no different than me going out with my male friend for dinner that night, which is pretty ridiculous. I straight up asked her if they slept together and she said no, but I don't believe her. Quite frankly, I have realized that whoever she is not the same woman I fell in love with and married. Whoever she's become, he's welcome to her, and she's welcome to date and bang whoever she desires. So am I, though. So, this morning, my wife told me that in the last couple days she also put herself on a dating site. The interesting thing is that it didn't bother me at all. It seems I was right. She hurt me so badly by meeting with the other dude that doing this now doesn't even hurt. Unless she tries really hard, I doubt there's anything she can do now to hurt me again. Update: I went on a date with the other woman and had a really good time. When I dropped her off, she kissed me in a way that my wife hadn't in a long time, and there were fireworks inside of me. Then I went home and I thought about it a lot over the next day. I realized that all this date had succeeded in doing was making me miss my wife. I realized that I did have a good time, and that I was feeling all these wonderful romantic feelings I hadn't had in so long, but what I really wanted was to find those feelings with my wife again. She and I have had a few long talks and another session of counseling since then, and we both have realized that dating others in any form is no good for our situation. We both want to make it work in the long term, both for us and for the kids, and dating others just means we'll keep hurting each other instead of starting to heal. Kudos to the people in this thread that tried to talk me out of it. By the way, though I think it was probably a good thing that I went on that date, it served as a powerful indicator for me to realize what it was I really needed. She has broken off contact with the other man and with the dudes from the dating site, and I have broken off contact with the other woman. We've promised to each other that we will not date nor sleep with anyone else for the time being, and we're planning to spend a few months still living in separate rooms before we decide if we're ready to start truly being together again to work on things. We both have a lot of our own issues at play, things that interfere with the ability to create a strong relationship with each other, so we're both going to work on those things in the meantime. I know that it's going to be a long, hard road to recover the trust and love that has been lost, but I realize now that I was, and really, we both were, taking the easy way out by looking to others to fill the void. I'm still not certain, but I'm beginning to think that I might have been wrong about her intentions with the other guy. She still insists that they are just friends and she didn't want to tell me because she knew I'd take it the wrong way. I can't be sure, but I do know that she has promised that there will be no more of that, and I believe her. In an interesting development as well, since that decision, she and I have had more and better bonding over a week than we had in the previous 6 months or more. It's strange in a way, because when we're done, we just sort of say goodnight and she go back to her bedroom alone, but it's definitely a positive thing for us, in the sense that very few things are as good for building goodwill between a man and a woman as getting each other off. I know that we've got a long, long way to go, but I also know that we're starting to bond again, and in a weird sense, it's almost like we're young and dating again. We get together, do whatever, bonding, kiss goodnight, then go home to our own rooms. I also think this is helpful because if she and I are having regular bonding, I don't have to worry as much that she's looking to get her needs taken care of elsewhere, and I don't feel so starved that I am compelled to look elsewhere myself. We had a great week, then it was back to fighting and her telling me to give her space. Our counselor suggested we set a date, a time frame of about 6 weeks during which we don't date others, and at the same time give each other as much space as we can. We've decided to aim for the 1st of December, after which she'll decide if she really wants to work on it or if we're going to go our separate ways. Every day that passes, though, I feel more certain that we're going to divorce. We can't go 2 days without fighting. Every day that passes I notice more of her sneaky behavior, more of her secrets and the walls she's building between us. As much fun as it was to have that week of great bonding, after such a long time of virtually none, I can't help but feel that I was just serving as a toy for when her vibrator wasn't good enough. That wouldn't have bothered me before, really, but now, it's weird, I almost feel used, even though it was good for me too. I'm getting so sick of her back and forth. Get away, I want space. No wait, come here and hug me, kiss me, screw me, love me, now get away, I need space. A younger me would have loved the chance to have a good time without the attachment, but this is my wife and I'm too old for that crap. I want the whole package, and if she's not down for that then I'm not down to stick around waiting for her to realize what she's giving up. I'm worth more than that. I'm tempted to hack her computer and cell phone to see if she has still been contacting him, though she says she told him she couldn't anymore. I won't though, it's a violation of her personal space and trust, and it's likely to just make me angrier and more hurt anyhow without actually helping anything. I'm willing to give it 6 more weeks. Maybe after this time, after she has to live without any comfort or benefit from me, besides keeping the roof over her head, she might realize what she'd be giving up if she doesn't try. After all, we've been together 11 years, what's another month and a half? I've told her, though, in no uncertain terms, that if we reach December 1st after I give her all the space she needs, and she still isn't willing to keep her vows and be my wife and work on our problems together, then we are divorcing for sure. I have started contacting lawyers and bankers and such, just in case, to be sure that she can't screw me over too badly when the time comes. I strongly believe that you shouldn't throw away people, and even though she's treated me like crap for the last few months, and we were both pretty bad to each other for a long time before that, I still am unwilling to simply discard her without a final chance. My comment, Part 2 ending coming tomorrow. The STBX is trying so hard to make OP into her plan B. Do you believe OP will escape? Subscribe, comment down, and we will see if OP becomes a plan B or not.